Hey, how you doing? So in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to recreate this cinematic look. This is a great preset in Lightroom for cityscapes, things like that, urban photography. It just gives your images that cinematic look, and it's quite a nice finish. It's a really simple process. So I'm going to reset this and just walk you through the steps. So obviously we've got a shot that's taken during the blue hour, so it does have a blue hue to it. So I want to try and get rid of that and just give it a bit more of a polished look. So the first thing I'm going to do is come up to the profile and click on the 4 squares at the top there. And if you didn't know about this, this gives you a few different profiles you can start with, which is great for when you're making your own presets or editing your images. So I'm going to come down to vintage and I'm going to select number 7 because I quite like that. I use that quite a lot. And then I'm just going to drop this amount because I don't want it to be too powerful. So I'm just going to drop this to around 40. There we go. So around 40 there. That's good. And then just click close. Next thing I'm going to do is come to the white balance. And like I said in the beginning, it's got a little bit of a blue hue to it. So I'm just going to push this up a few points to around +4, +5. Depending on your image, you may not need to do that. So I'm going to add some contrast. I'm going to boost this up just to give us enough contrast and separation. So around 20 works pretty well for this. Then on the highlights, I'm going to just bring them up a little bit because this is quite a dark image, especially around these areas here. So I want to make sure the highlights have an area to stand out from. So like around the windows and things like that, just want to boost them up a little bit. So let's bring the shadows. I'm going to push this to around +50, and we just retrieved a lot of dark areas in here. So there's a lot of detail in there that we've just got back from doing that. And then I'm just going to drop the whites and the blacks to around -30 for this particular image. There we go. That looks pretty good. So we just have a quick look at the before and after. So if I press the Y key, that will give us that. You can see there it's quite a big difference already. Okay, so let's move down to the clarity and dehaze. So I'm just going to add a little bit of clarity to this. That's what's going to give this image that urban rough look. And the same with the dehaze. I'm just going to push that up as well. That's quite an important step, that, especially with the clarity. That always gives your images a little bit of a rougher look, and you've got to be careful that you don't overcook it. Okay, so let's bring the vibrance up a little bit. I'm going to push this to around +15. And then I want to take some of the color out. So I'm going to pull this down to around -25. So there we go. Let's have another quick look. So we can see there we've boosted them colors up, but just pulled out a lot of the saturation. So now we've done that, it means that we can then start manipulating them colors. So before we do that, let's come to the tone curve. And I'm just going to make 3 points. There we go. And I'm just going to come to the middle and I'm just going to bring that down ever so slightly to around there. And then I'm going to come to this section here and just push this up. And what this will do is this will just lighten them blacks a little bit more, just so we get some more detail back within these darker areas. And then I'm just going to come up to this section here and I'm just going to pull the whites down a little bit to around there. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to copy them and paste them onto the red, green and blue channels. So all you need to do is right click and then select copy channel settings, go to the red channel, right click and then select paste channel settings, and then just do the rest the same. There we go. So it probably doesn't look like we've done much, but that tone curve has made a big difference. So if we look at the before and after from that, you can see what we've done is we've actually matted that down a little bit and taken away a lot of the shine to the image. And again, that's what's going to give us that urban look, where it's quite a clean look. So this cinematic style has to be clean in order for it to look good. So moving on then, let's move to the hue and saturation and luminance. So with this, all I've done is created a few different adjustments that are, I suppose, commonly used when doing cinematic style edit. So these aren't groundbreaking, they're nothing new, They're tried and tested. So let's start with the red and the orange. Just going to bring them down to -10. There we go, that looks good. And I'm going to bring the yellow down to about -30. We're going to take a lot of that yellow away. And then I'm going to jump to the blue and I'm going to pull that down to -20. There we go. So we're just changing the hue of that. Let's move to the saturation. So let's push the orange up to around 30. That looks pretty good. And then the yellows, I'm going to bring them down to -11. And then the greens, I'm going to take that down to about -80. And then the aqua and the blue, bring them down. So the aqua I'm going to bring to, I think it was about 50. And then the blue was around the 60 mark. There we go. So let's move to the luminance now, so the brightness of these colors. And then after we've done that, we can then color grade the image. So let's just come to the orange and just boost this up a little bit to around +10. And then let's take some of that yellow back out, so -20. And then the aqua and the blue, we're going to push them up, so the aqua to around there, +20. And the blue, I'm going to push that a little bit higher to +30. And then the purple and magenta, I'm just going to drop these down to about -30 each. So there we go. There's the purple and then the magenta to about there. That looks pretty good. So again, it may not seem like we've done much, but if we actually look at the before and after on that, you can see that we've stripped away a lot of that color, the green and the blues. We've really pulled them out to get rid of that sort of blue hour look, and this is starting to build up now to that cinematic look where it's quite flat. We just now need to color grade this. That's the next step now. So let's start with the color grading, and let's start with the shadows. So I'm going to come to the hue. I'm just going to click there. I find this a lot easier than actually trying to move this around and pull this out, because sometimes it just moves around. So it's easier just to work out the numbers and then type them in. So the hue is going to be 200, and I'm going to have a saturation of around between 10 and 12. That works pretty well. And then I'm going to bring the luminance down to about -80, so it's not so bright. Okay, and then we can move on to the midtones, and again let's do the same thing. So the hue is going to be 35 and the saturation is going to be 25. There we go. And then the luminance on this, I want this to be a little bit brighter, so I'm going to push that up to +30. And then finally let's come to the highlights. Let's type in a hue of 40 and a saturation of anywhere between 10 and 15. I'm going to put 15 in for this one. And then I'm going to push the luminance up to +40 again. That looks pretty good. So now we've actually color graded that. We've done the bulk of the work. So if we look at the before and after on that, you can see it makes a huge difference. And if you look at the actual colors that we use, you can see that they're opposites. So we're using a triad here. So we've got a blue in the shadows. In the midtones, we've got a very, very warm orange. And then in the highlights, we're also using a warm orange. It's a little bit, the hue's a little bit lower, as you can see from the previous one. So it's, yeah, like I said in the a little while ago, this is not groundbreaking. This is how cinematic movies and images are color graded. It's very much color opposites. So that's looking pretty good. So because we've done quite a bit to this image as well, we want to add some noise reduction and possibly sharpen the image a little bit. So I'll push this up to about 25. There we go. And let's keep the radius at 1 pixel, detail at 25, and just leave the masking off because we don't need to isolate any particular areas. Let's increase the noise reduction to, let's just push it up. It doesn't need too much. Around 15 will be good enough. And we can also do the same for the color, just for good measure. And there we go. So that is how you create this effect. So if we look at the before and after in total, you can see there that we've gone from that blue hour into this more cinematic look. And just by manipulating color, we've created a completely different feel to the image. And that's the important thing to remember, is that when you're taking a picture, you take the picture, but you can create different mood and atmosphere by playing with color and contrast and tones. So this just kind of proves that you can have an image that works both ways and have a completely different end result. If you've not already done so, then head over to my website, togproholidays.com, and you can check out the holidays that we've got coming up. We've got one in June. We're going to Finland to photograph the bears in the wild, and we are also going to Kenya in October, which is going to be amazing. So we've got some other trips planned for next year as well. So head over to togproholidays.com and you can check out everything on there and get in touch with me if you want some more information. Take care, and I'll see you on the next video.